Well, what I do when I first get a script, it's very important for me to have a script that I know nothing about. And that's difficult in television sometimes because, in the case of 24, for example, it's a continuing storyline. So, while I was directing, say, episodes 3 and 4, the writers would come and say, we're thinking of doing this for 5 and 6, and I would want to hear it, but I don't want to hear it because when a director reads a script for the first time, and obviously it's different if you write the script or part, but for me, because I get a script as a television director, here's what you're going to be doing. I get to read it like an audience member, and so it's really important for me to read that script without knowing anything that's going to happen because that tells me right away. The way I do it is if I can see something coming, if the script tips it off, if I know who the killer is before it's time to know who the killer is, just from reading the script, if I'm surprised when I'm supposed to be surprised, all of those things, if they happen in the script, I can make them happen for the audience. That's my thought process in it. If I know who the killer is, 20 pages before you're supposed to know what the killer is, I go back to the writers and go, this is the page right here. When he said this line, I knew he was the killer. So let's change that line. So let's not give it away. Because that basically, if I know, I assume that everyone's smart enough to know also. So I try to hide it. So what are we going to do to hide it so we reveal it when we're supposed to reveal it? So that's the very first thing I do with the script. I need to read it fresh. And if it fools me, I get very excited. Because then if it fools me, a guy who's seen a million movies, then I go, okay, it fooled me. I can fool the audience. I can do the same thing. I can make the script and fool the audience. So that's the very first thing I need to do with the script. If it's not working, then I have to start going in and talking to the writers and going, I think we need to do this. This is missing and that's missing. And I can't sit down with a blank piece of paper and write a script. That's not a talent I have. But what I do have is a talent to be able to get a script and know when it's good and know when it's not so good and know how to fix it. And so as a director, that's the first thing you got to be able to do. You have to do that. Every director has to do that. You can't just be given a script and go, great, it's perfect, I'm going to shoot it that way. You really have to be able to analyze it and fix it. And then I will make notes on margins, and I will make all these little notes that I will then tell the writers what I think works dialogue-wise, story-wise. I'll make all those notes. But then there's no breakdown after that. What I am doing, I've got to tell you right away, that the second I read the script, I'm making the movie in my head. Right away. Almost instantly, I'm making that movie. And that movie very rarely changes. It's very funny, especially when I'm on a show like 24 for a long time. The second I start reading the script, I already start making the movie. So then it becomes easier for me to then say, when I read it, this is what I saw. And this is what I want. Right away. It's got to be that fast. And unfortunately in television you don't have the ability to say, hey, let me think about it for a month and then we'll talk about it. You got to know right away. You read the script one day, before you even finish it, you've already got wardrobe calling you saying, what's the wardrobe going to look like? What locations you want to look at. So the second I read a script, I make the movie in my head. Every shot. I think about every shot, where I want to put the camera, the feel of it, the speed of it, all of that, and I do it right away. And again, as a student, you should be doing the same thing. You should be able to read anything and make a movie in your head. When I read a book, I'm making a movie in my head every time. I'm thinking about shots. I'm thinking about, the speed of it, what it looks like, what the wardrobe looks like, what the atmosphere is going to be. Is it going to be black and white or color? I mean, everything I read, now that I'm a director, I make the movie in my head. So once I've done that, it eliminates the shot list and what, and all of that. Now you start to get practical and go to the location. I might have had this kind of location in my head, but it doesn't exist. You have to find something that exists. So then the secret becomes of breaking down a script with what do all the other people and all the other departments think. I've made the movie in my head. I communicate it to them, to my production designer, very important. And, I say to them, they wrote warehouse. I don't want to do a warehouse. I want to do something more interesting. Here's what I had in mind. And now he says, hey, what about this? And I go, oh, that's good. That's even better than what I thought of. So right away, you start involving people. I don't think as a director, it never works for me. And I don't think a lot of good directors work in a way that they say, this is the way I want it, do it this way. I don't care what you think. Because if you're doing that, then these talented people that you've got working for you, aren't doing their job, you know. And I read a book really early when I started directing, and basically it was, you know, it asked one question and had 5 different directors answer it, you know, the biggest directors of the time. And they asked the question, well, you've now hired the best DP there is. Are you going to tell him how to light? And every director says the same thing. Of course not. That's why I hired him. I'm going to tell him what my vision is, and he's going to help me get my vision. So once you've made the movie in your head, then it's really important to go to all the different departments. And I'm talking all the different departments, to the prop guys, to wardrobe, to makeup, all the different departments, and say, here's what I had in mind. What do you think? What did you think when you read the script? You know, and then they'll say, I thought this, and you can say, no, you're wrong. That's not what I want to do. But every once in a while, they'll say, I thought this, and you go, oh, that's better. That's better than what I thought. So now you're getting people to help you make it better. You know, but you have to have that idea to start with. The dangerous part is not having any idea. That is the part that you have to avoid as a director. You know, you can't go to those people because they're way too strong in their opinions. You can't go to those people and say, I had no idea what the prop looks like. I don't know what the bomb looks like. What do you think? You make it. I don't know what it looks like. You can't do that because then there's no one central vision. You need one person that's gonna, you know, push everyone down the same line. You know, so you have to go to every one of those people and say, this is my idea, this is what I'm thinking, what's your input? And then it's your job to take the input and say, great, that works with my idea, or to say, oh, that's really different than what I wanted, I don't want that. Think more what I want and try to give me what I want. You know, so you have to be able to have that idea right away, communicate it to people, but be very open to listen to what they have to say. And then be very strong to say, yes, that works, or no, it doesn't. And that's really the way I do it. So that's how I break down a script and get everybody involved in putting it together. Well, basically what you have, you always have a casting director, because what the casting director does is it eliminates, you know, it eliminates from thousands down to 5 or 6. That's really what a casting director does, because they're the ones that know everybody that's out there. It's really impossible as a director to know everybody that's out there, especially when it gets down to smaller parts. You just don't know who those people are, and the casting director does. So the casting director is able to read the role and say, you know what, here are the best 5 guys for that role, and that's who they'll bring you. So you've already taken the cream of the top off already, and you're not dealing with everybody. You're dealing with just the best available, and then you're able to work with them. What I do as a director in a casting session, you know, I want people to come in and do, you know, do the dialogue. I always like to give a couple of notes to see if they can change, because it might be good right now and I like what you're doing, but again, when I get out there and when you're in front of Kiefer and Kiefer has an idea and we change the whole thing, I want to be able to know that you're going to be able to change, that you don't have this robotic, I have one way of doing it and that's all there is. So I constantly, especially if it's an actor I like, I will say, that's great. Now try it like this, and give him a note that's completely different. Not necessarily what I want him to do, but I just want to see if that actor is going to be able to make that note. And if they can take that note and completely change your performance, okay, I like what you did, and you can change your performance when I tell you to, that's what I want. So that's kind of what I do in the casting process.